As the curtains come down on 2024, one of the defining features of geopolitical environment was multipolarity. A greater number of powerful actors shaped an increasingly complex global system. Conflicts in Asia and Europe continued to dominate world politics, even as governments around the world were voted out, some toppled. Conflicts continue to rage on, with Russia-Ukraine war showing no signs of abating. After small but steady Russian advances in Ukraine's east in the first half of the year, Ukraine launched a cross-border offensive into Russia's Kursk Oblast in August, marking its first direct incursion into Russian territory. In response, Russia intensified its military efforts, particularly in the eastern Donetsk region. By December, Russian forces had seized approximately 1,700 square miles of Ukrainian territory, marking their most rapid advance since the war began over 2 years ago.
Because of the combat work you have done here, the best Ukrainian units were destroyed. In fact, the entire 2025 campaign of the Ukrainian armed forces has been disrupted.
In October, North Korea jumped into the fray, with North soldiers joining Russian forces in Kursk, indicating an international dimension to the conflict.
There are already preliminary data that the Russians have begun using soldiers from North Korea in the assaults, a noticeable number. The Russians include them in consolidated units and use them in operations in the Kursk region.
In November, Russia lowered the threshold for a nuclear strike in response to a broader range of conventional attacks, after Ukraine struck deep inside Russia with the US-made 80ACMS missiles. December witnessed a surge in aerial assaults as Russia launched extensive missile and drone attacks targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure, leading to significant disruptions. Ukraine's air defenses, bolstered by Western-supplied F-16s, intercepted a substantial number of these attacks. NATO reported over 1 million casualties, with approximately 700,000 Russian and 300,000 Ukrainian soldiers killed or wounded. This grim milestone underscores the severe human cost of the ongoing war. West Asia continued to burn too, with Israel intensifying its offensive, wiping out top Hamas and Hezbollah leadership in precision attacks and targeted killings. Even as Israel-Hamas war entered its second year in October this year, international diplomatic efforts to bring peace did not yield much on ground. Israel conducted a series of targeted operations, resulting in the deaths of several high-ranking leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah. A weakened Hezbollah finally agreed to a ceasefire in November. Notable figures killed this year by Israel include Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza and a key architect of the October 7, 2023 attacks on Israel. Sinwar was killed by Israeli forces in Gaza in October. Ismail Haniyeh, the political chief of Hamas, who was assassinated in Tehran in Iran in July. His death was a significant blow to Hamas's political leadership. Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of the Hezbollah, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut in September. Nasrallah had led the Hezbollah since 1992 and his death marked a pivotal moment in the organization's history. Nabil Kaouk, a senior Hezbollah official killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut on September 25th, Kaouk was a prominent figure within the Hezbollah's military wing. Hashim Safieddine, a senior Hezbollah leader and potential successor to Nasrallah, was killed in an Israeli operation in October. Safieddine's death further destabilized Hezbollah's leadership structure. These targeted killings significantly impacted the operational capabilities and leadership structures of both Hamas and Hezbollah. A fallout of these events was the toppling of Bashar al-Assad, the dictatorial ruler of neighboring Syria. President Assad was ousted from power on December 8th following a rapid offensive by rebel forces that culminated in the capture of Damascus.
With the help of God, the city of Damascus was liberated and the regime of the tyrant Bashar al-Assad was toppled. All prisoners from prisons of the regime was liberated. The operation center of Fateh Dimashq asked our brothers, jihadists and citizens to preserve all the belongings of Syrian state. Long live free Syria.
Assad fled to Russia, where he was granted asylum. The offensive began in November end when a coalition of Syrian opposition militant groups launched attacks against pro-government forces in Aleppo, Idlib, Hama and Homs governorates. The swift progression continued, leading to the capture of Damascus on December 8th, effectively ending the Assad family's 5-decade-long rule in Syria. As rebel fighters walked into Damascus, a demotivated forces of Bashar gave in without a fight. Impromptu revelry was witnessed on the streets of Syria.
I came here to share in the joy of the people. You can see the joy in their eyes. Children, adults, the elderly, everyone. There are no words to express the joy of these people.
With the infamous Sednaya prison broken into and prisoners freed, horrific stories of Assad regime's torture and tyranny emerged.
Here I used to be blindfolded, my arms behind my back, stepping on this ladder, a step here, the second step, we would do this, okay? Then he would push the ladder like this, so I was suspended in the air with my hands behind my back and dangling like this. My shoulders were torn and I could not say a single word. No one could bear more than 5 or 10 minutes.
The international community is watching the situation with concern as a humanitarian crisis unfolds. With more than 1 million Syrian refugees expected to return to the country and about 880,000 internally displaced people, UN bodies have warned of a humanitarian disaster if the world does not chip in with help fast. The new Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir has already said that the country's financial situation is in doldrums, with no foreign reserves left. Then there are concerns about the Islamists and the protection of minorities and establishment of a stable governance structure in post-Assad Syria. The leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, Mohammad al-Jalani, has been at pains to stress that the rebel factions will be disbanded soon. He has been trying hard to distance himself from his past links with the Al-Qaeda. Also, there is this question of regional instability, with Israel occupying the buffer zone on Golan Heights in the aftermath of Assad's ouster, citing security concerns. The move has drawn international criticism and raised questions about Israel's intentions. It wasn't just Assad whose regime was toppled. Bangladesh's Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had to flee the country and take refuge in India in August after massive protests erupted against the reservation laws in the country. Earlier in January, Hasina had become the Prime Minister, securing a fifth term in power, with her party taking 3/4 of seats in Parliament. This was a historic win, but it later unfolded into a disaster for her.
ইনশাআল্লাহ এটা আমাদের বাংলাদেশের ইতিহাসে দ্বিতীয় স্বাধীনতা আমরা খুঁজে পেয়েছি
It is the second liberation in our history. It's a freedom of young generation. The way violence happened in Bangladesh, the freedom of judiciary has been crushed. In a word, they crushed the freedom of Bangladesh. Now we regain the freedom of Bangladesh. We want to build the country in a new way again.
নতুন করে আবার বাংলাদেশকে আবার মুক্ত করে বাংলাদেশকে আবার নতুন করে সাজাতে চাই
Nobel laureate and economist Muhammad Yunus was appointed the chief advisor, a sort of interim administrator of Bangladesh, but with atrocities against minorities under his gaze has earned him widespread international censure. Another world leader who faced ouster from power this year was South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol. He was impeached by the Korean Parliament on December 14th, following an imposition of a controversial martial law by him in early December. This move led to a military crackdown on Parliament and violent clashes, causing widespread fear and disrupting financial markets. A defiant Yoon was impeached in the second vote after the first impeachment bid failed, as the opposition couldn't garner the required numbers. Following the impeachment vote, President Yoon's powers and duties were suspended. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo assumed the role of acting president during the period. Later, the acting president Han Duck-soo was impeached too. The Constitutional Court of South Korea is now tasked with reviewing the impeachment. It has up to 180 days to decide whether to uphold the impeachment and formally remove Yoon from office. During this time, the political landscape remains tense, with potential implications for South Korea's governance and international relations. Some other countries too saw change of governments, with some repeating incumbents. In March, Shehbaz Sharif took oath as Prime Minister of Pakistan in a controversial election after the main opposition leader Imran Khan was jailed on series of charges and his party barred from contesting elections. Vladimir Putin won the Russian election in a landslide victory by securing 87.97% of the votes cast. In July, the Labour Party emerged victorious in the United Kingdom parliamentary elections, with Keir Starmer becoming the Prime Minister, replacing Rishi Sunak of the Conservative Party.
Politics can be a force for good. We will show that. We've changed the Labour Party, returned it to service, and that is how we will govern. Country first, party second.
In September, Anura Kumara Dissanayake won the Sri Lankan presidential elections. The winner was declared after a second round of counting of votes, a first-time exercise undertaken in the history of the country. A month later, his party and the ruling alliance, the NPP, secured a massive victory in the country's parliamentary elections. In October, Claudia Sheinbaum took oath as the first ever female president of Mexico after a landslide victory in elections held in June. KP Sharma Oli was appointed Nepal's Prime Minister for the third time in July to lead the new coalition government. Oli succeeded Pushp Kamal Dahal Prachanda, who lost the vote of confidence in the Nepalese parliament. France experienced significant political instability in 2024, marked by multiple changes in the Prime Minister's office. In January, Elizabeth Bourne resigned as Prime Minister and was succeeded by Gabriel Attal, who formed a minority government. Attal's tenure was short-lived as he resigned in September following a failed budget proposal. Michel Barnier then assumed the role but faced a no-confidence vote in December, leading to his resignation after 3 months. The shortest tenure of any prime minister in modern French history. President Emmanuel Macron appointed François Bayrou as the new prime minister on the 13th of December. Bayrou is now tasked with addressing France's economic challenges and navigating a fractured parliament to pass next year's budget. In May, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi tragically died in a helicopter crash in the country's East Azerbaijan province. 7 others, including the country's foreign minister Hossein Amir Abdullah and the governor of East Azerbaijan province, along with officials and bodyguards, were also killed in the crash that took place in the remote mountainous region of northwestern Iran. A month later, elections were called and reformist politician Masoud Pezeshkian won the presidential election and assumed office in July. But the election that elicited most interest worldwide was the US presidential election. It started with incumbent Joe Biden securing the Democratic ticket and Donald Trump winning the Republican nomination. Biden had to pull out midway due to his unpopularity, naming Kamala Harris as the party's candidate. Thrown into the fray quite late in the day, she had just 100 days to campaign. That gave Donald Trump the edge over her right from the start. The campaign trail was marked by sharp rhetoric, controversial statements, and a deluge of advertisements targeting the voter.
No thanks, Kamala. You've done a terrible job. You've been terrible at everything you've done. You're ultra-liberal, and we don't want you here. We don't want you anywhere. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. You're fired.
It was the same old show. The divisiveness and the disrespect. And let me just say, the American people deserve better. The American people deserve better.
The 2024 presidential election proved to be one of the most polarizing in the US history. The campaign reflected deep divisions in the country. Trump went on to win both the Electoral College and popular vote. Trump won 312 Electoral College votes compared to Harris's 226. Trump won all of the 7 battleground states. Donald Trump takes oath of office coming January. India continued to engage with the world, with Prime Minister Modi travelling to several world capitals for bilateral and multilateral engagements. Several world leaders travelled to India for bilateral meetings. The year began with French President Emmanuel Macron attending the 75th Republic Day celebrations in India as chief guest. In February, Prime Minister Modi embarked on a state visit to United Arab Emirates. This was his 7th visit to the UAE. He participated in the World Government Summit 2024 in Dubai as a guest of honor. It was during this visit that Prime Minister Modi inaugurated the Babs Hindu Temple, the first Hindu temple in Abu Dhabi, and interacted with the diaspora at the mega event Ahlan Modi. Prime Minister Modi also visited Qatar in February. This was his 2nd visit after 2016. In March, Prime Minister of Bhutan Dasho Tshering Tobgay visited India on his first overseas visit after assuming office in January. Prime Minister Modi paid a return visit to Bhutan. He was conferred with the Order of the Druk Gyalpo, Bhutan's highest civilian decoration. With this, Prime Minister Modi became the first foreign leader to be accorded this honor. In June, Prime Minister Modi visited Italy to participate in the G7 summit. He held multiple bilateral dialogues and participated in the outreach session on artificial intelligence and energy, Africa and the Mediterranean at the G7 summit. In July, Prime Minister Modi embarked on a state visit to Russia and participated in the 22nd India-Russia Annual Summit. President Putin conferred Russia's highest national award, the Order of St. Andrew the Apostle, on Prime Minister Modi for his contribution to fostering India-Russia ties. The award was announced in 2019. Prime Minister Modi is the first Indian leader to be conferred with this award. Prime Minister Modi paid a state visit to Austria. This was the first visit by a Prime Minister of India to Austria in 41 years. In August, Prime Minister of Vietnam visited India. India hosted the third Voice of the Global South Summit on August 17th in a virtual format with an overarching theme: an empowered global South for sustainable future. Prime Minister of Malaysia paid a state visit to India in August. In August end, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Poland. This was the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister in 45 years to that country. Prime Minister Modi paid a historic visit to Ukraine in late August, becoming the first Indian leader to travel to the country since Ukraine got independence in 1991. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kyiv was billed as a bid to secure a peaceful resolution to the war between Russia and Ukraine through dialogue and diplomacy. In September, Prime Minister Modi visited Brunei Darussalam. This was the first ever bilateral visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the country, and it coincided with the 40th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations with the country. Prime Minister Modi also visited Singapore. This was the fifth visit of Prime Minister Modi to the country. Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi Sheikh Khalid bin Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan paid a visit to India. This was his first visit to India as a Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi. In September, Prime Minister Modi visited the United States of America to participate in the Quad Summit. A key highlight was the Cancer Moonshot event. During the visit, the Prime Minister also addressed the Summit of Future at the UN. Prime Minister of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Holness, came on a state visit to India in September. This was his first ever visit to India and the first ever bilateral visit of a Jamaican Prime Minister to India. In October, President of Maldives, Dr. Mohamed Moizu, came calling on New Delhi. Prime Minister Modi went to Lao PDR in October. The Prime Minister attended the 21st ASEAN-India Summit and the 19th East Asia Summit. Prime Minister Modi visited Russia to attend the 16th BRICS Summit in Kazan. The Kazan Declaration on Strengthening Multilateralism for Just Global Development and Security was signed there. The Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, came to India for the 17th Intergovernmental Consultations. President of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, also visited India this year. While this was the first visit for Sanchez, the visit of President of Spain to India came after a gap of 18 years. Prime Minister Modi visited Nigeria in November. This was the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Nigeria in 17 years. Prime Minister Modi was conferred the National Award Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger for his statesmanship and contribution to fostering India-Nigeria ties. Prime Minister Modi is the first foreign leader to be conferred with this award since 1969. Prime Minister Modi announced a 20-ton humanitarian aid package to assist relief efforts in flood-hit Nigeria. In November, Prime Minister Modi visited Brazil to participate in the G20 summit. Brazil had taken over the G20 presidency from India. A key development from the sidelines was the relaunching of the UK-India Free Trade Agreement negotiations. Prime Minister Modi also visited Guyana. This was the first ever visit by an Indian Prime Minister to the country. He participated in the second India-CARICOM summit. Dominica conferred its highest national award, the Dominica Award of Honor, on Prime Minister Modi. Dr. Mohammad Irfan Ali, the President of Guyana, conferred upon Prime Minister Modi the highest national award of Guyana, the Order of Excellence. Prime Minister Modi is the fourth foreign leader to be conferred with this highest national award of Guyana. In December, the King of Bhutan, Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk, accompanied by the Queen of Bhutan, were on a state visit to India. The year ended with a state visit to Kuwait by Prime Minister Modi. He was conferred with Kuwait's highest honor, the Order of Mubarak Al-Kabir, by Kuwait's Amir Sheikh Mashal Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah. The two sides agreed to cooperate in the areas of defense, sports and culture. Prime Minister Modi also addressed the Indian diaspora there. As curtains draw on 2024, conflict and war continue to dominate the global discourse. India tried to be voice of reason and peace, urging the world to step into the new year with a resolve to take urgent action on pressing issues of our times.